Mushoku Tensei is, depending on who you ask, either the certified grandfather of all isekai anime, or a show for a bunch of degenerates, with no real in-betweens possible. This is a matter of bloody conflict that will no doubt be settled ultimately in the Great Corporate War of 2077 between the social justice death squads and the neo-Nazi strike force, but until then, the fanbase sadly has no other option than to fight it all out in the pit. But regardless on which side of the conflict you fall on, it's at least fair to say that the series packs more substance than your generic isekai anime, because I'd rather get stabbed than watch another episode of In Another World with my smartphone. Now, what is a generic isekai? Is this a generic isekai? What even makes a good isekai? Should you perhaps be using the term native isekai? Can text-to-speech even properly pronounce isekai? Let's now figure out all the answers to these hot topics and more. Isekai, according to Chinese Wikipedia, is Yu Guan Zuo Pin Yi Sheng Guo, where the protagonist suddenly finds himself transported into another world. As a trend, the genre started gaining dramatic popularity during the 2010s, totally overshadowing and replacing the earlier strangely specific fad, Magical Battle Academy harem stories, which, according to Chinese Wikipedia, were the lewder cousin of Harry Potter. In general, isekai as a setting can be described as a crutch, because everybody in a post-Tolkien world assumedly knows what elves and magic are. You don't have to spend time on world building, and can instead focus on what you think makes your story truly stand out. Or this all in theory. However, in practice this crutch keeps getting utilized in various fucking stupid ways. The influx of isekai means that the author tries to sell you the story often by a singular unique element, which means there's a surprisingly large quantity of anime out there where the only unique factor is the fact the main character owns a smartphone. So, surprising as it might seem, skipping on the fundamental building blocks of the story might not create the most unique viewing experience. In fact, a lot of the anime on a more fantastical spectrum tend to get praise if they actually get down to it and build an expansive world and characters. So what then makes Mushoku Tensei an entertaining isekai? In my honest opinion, the anime is noteworthy as it doesn't use the setting as an excuse to showcase whatever the author context-wise decided to be cool at the time, but goes about things the hard way. In fact, the series uses way more time than necessary focusing on the main character staring at various things as a baby, and that's a good thing. The end result is a series that's much more grounded than your average fantasy anime. Is Mushoku Tensei then the best isekai ever made? The answer to that is however a stern no, because that place is already taken, and belongs to a 2002 anime, Haibane Renmei, which is a cute slice-of-life anime, featuring dead girls in an afterlife, taking loose impressions from the nightmares of Haruki Murakami. In fact, the anime is so good that if you dare to imply to one of its fans that the series shares traits with isekai anime, they will become extremely agitated and proceed to use rapid blunt trauma on your ass. Another older isekai anime, which in all fairness was probably named by someone with dyslexia, dares to ask a hard-hitting question. What if your average anime protagonist would get isekai'd and be forced to become a child soldier instead? And the results are, by the way, fucking horrifying. Now, this is all to showcase that there in fact exists fantasy anime that isn't content in just copying the latest fad, and that you shouldn't be content with cash grab stories either, because anime can and will deliver occasional works of higher quality. In other words, you probably shouldn't buy and hot glue that new Suzuha figure you've been eyeing, so that yet another season of Sword Art Online doesn't inexplicably pop up from some corporate hellhole.